Hello and welcome to another episode of the Door 14 Hockey Podcast. I'm your host alongside John
Hello.
and Aaron.
Hello.
Welcome back, Aaron. How are you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, can't complain. All good. You missed the last episode 2 weeks ago, where we did our predictions and stuff, but I know you sent them through to John. So thank you very much for that.
You're going to need to remind me because I cannot remember what I predicted.
You still predicted the Belfast Giants for one of them, even though we'd said don't predict
don't
Giants.
use that.
Yeah.
We had to tell you off for that one.
It was very difficult.
I know you did pick Sheffield for playoffs. I remember that, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. But I can't remember the other two that you sent through. John can maybe find that and remind us later on. John, how are you doing?
I'm good. People may have noticed that I'm in a very similar but slightly different studio tonight. I have moved in what will likely be the first of many temporary moves of my studio, because we will be getting some housework done in the next 6 months or so, starting just in the new year. So winter last year in my shed studio was horrendous. So I've decided to move everything into one of the spare rooms of the upstairs flat, which we will be knocking into one big house because I valued my health and well-being. So welcome to the upstairs studio for the first time, everyone.
Although I will say I am going to greatly miss the birds tweeting in the background. That was particularly a favorite of mine whenever we were recording, so I'm going to miss that. You don't have to. No. You're okay, thanks. Yeah. Dave obviously can't join us tonight. He is I think he's not feeling the best. So he is taking a night off. So hopefully he's
on the injury reserve list.
Yes, he's feeling better soon, and we're back next episode.
It instantly went to people automatically know that I'm in a different room.
Yes, for anybody who is listening to the traditional style podcast, that's not very visual. You didn't really explain very much, but yeah, go on, check out the YouTube video. You'll see the background. Yes, it hasn't changed too much. I see what you mean. There's still all your little bits and pieces are there.
It just has everything's here. It's just slightly different. The hats are still here. They're up on a door instead of on a wall now. But that's basically the only thing that's changed. Other than I can't get my LEDs to work, so there's no bright, nice, colorful LEDs behind me for now.
Okay. We since our last recording, we have had I suppose the main action on the Elite League has started. We've had 2 weeks of action since our last recording, and we will get into that soon. And we're going to be moving into week 3 of the Elite League already, which just seems crazy. Which will see the Sheffield Steelers join the fray and start playing their first competitive games domestically after what has been a pretty successful, shall we say, CHL start for them, and we will get into that as well in period 1. So hold on to that, and we will talk about that. Boys, if we have nothing else at the moment, let's go through the league standings and the cup standings, if that's okay, because that's what has played. But we know the cup has been played. There's been more games played in the Challenge Cup than there has in the league. So let's start the opposite way around tonight, and let's start with the Challenge Cup and look at the games that have taken place there and the current standings for those. As we know, the groups changed for this season. We now have 2 groups in the Challenge Cup rather than 3 groups. The Group A is made up of the Nottingham Panthers, the Cardiff Devils, Manchester Storm, Guildford Flames, Coventry Blaze, and the Sheffield Steelers. And Group B is the Belfast Giants, Dundee Stars, Flyers, and Glasgow Clan. So Group A at the moment, the Nottingham Panthers have played 2 games and have 4 points, currently sitting on top. Cardiff Devils have played 1 game, have 2 points. Manchester Storm are sitting in 3rd with 3 games played, 2 points. Guildford are sitting in 4th with 4 games played and 2 points. Coventry have not played any games yet, and neither have Sheffield. As we said, Sheffield haven't played any domestic games as of yet. Switching over to Group B, Belfast Giants are currently sitting top of that group with 3 games played and 6 points. The Dundee Stars have 4 games played and 5 points. 5 Flyers sit on 3rd with 3 games played and 3 points, and Glasgow Clan sit in bottom with 2 games played and no points. John, we know it's your favorite tournament. We know it's your favorite cup. How do you think things have started in the Challenge Cup world?
The most interesting thing to happen in the Challenge Cup so far was Lauren Hewlett's celebration for his 4th goal and the winning goal in Kirkcaldy Ice Arena on, I believe it was Saturday night, just past whenever I went. I clearly got the chance to go and sit in Kirkcaldy. Thank you very much to the Flyers for the access that I got there, and some of the chats which were really, really interesting around jerseys and off ice and everything. Really, really cool chat. But yeah, Laura Noulette's spinning celebration was by far the most interesting thing that's happened in the Challenge Cup for years, other than draws being made. Oh no, sorry, that was playoffs. Draws being made out of Waitrose bags or whatever, M&S bags. But yeah, Challenge Cup, it is what it is. The format's ridiculous. The fact that the two groups play a different number of games is completely ridiculous. The fact that only one team is going to miss out on the next stage is equally as ridiculous. So yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean it is, as you say, it is what it is. Challenge Cup just kind of drags on and kind of goes, and as you said, like as we've said, a lot of the games so far played have been in Challenge Cup action. Giants obviously leading that group. I mean, I wouldn't say easily. Their game against Dundee this past weekend was a pretty tough one. Dundee really took it to them. Fair play to Dundee. And yeah,
was that an
but as you say,
goal game, Marty,
yeah,
that ended in OT.
It did,
as opposed to the 11-goal game that I was at in Kirkcaldy that ended 16 seconds before the end of regulation. Anthony's in the comments saying that he commentated on a winner in Guildford 6 seconds from time, and I give the highlight to Laura Noulette spinning. Yeah, I was there. I was there. That's literally my only reason, Anthony. Sorry, but goals galore is the biggest thing out of everything. Everyone's offense seems to have stepped up. I say everyone except Glasgow.
Yeah. Glasgow, obviously struggling to put points together there already at the start. We will come back to Glasgow in period one. There's some interesting talk there with Glasgow, especially when it comes to their business planning and pricing increase. So it'll be an interesting take when we look at performance versus charging and the amount they're charging. And we'll get your thoughts on that, boys, when we get into period one. Let's switch over to the league standings. As I said, there has been very few games played in the league. I think there's only been maybe 2 games played. I think maybe in the league overall 3 games maybe we played. Cardiff Devils currently sit top of the league with 2 points, haven't played 1 game. Coventry in second, 2 points, 1 game, and Manchester in third, 2 points, 1 game. I think the only other teams have played are Fife, who've played 1 game with no points, and Glasgow Clan again played 2 games and have no points. So again, not a really good start for the Glasgow Clan. Haven't played 4 games in total and had no points whatsoever. And we'll come to that, as I say, after. Normally at this stage, we usually go through NHL, but as we know, NHL hasn't started yet and doesn't start for at least another month. So we have nothing to talk about across the water. So with that, if you boys are happy enough, let's get stuck into our period one of hockey.
Can we talk about one thing, though?
Yeah.
So when you were talking there about the Challenge Cup, John did something that shocked and horrified me. John's wearing a 5-top.
We talked about this in our group. We talked about this in our WhatsApp group. We said that John was going to go to Fife the past weekend because he told us, he's like, "Oh, I'm going to Fife and I'm meeting such and such and I'm going to Fife." And we were like, "Oh, is that what? Is that how it is?"
He's like, "I'm Giants, true and true, never change."
I said in our group, it's the small steps. This week he's getting invited along. People smooze him, and they're like, "Oh, blah blah blah." And then the week later, he starts wearing Fife jerseys more and more, and then Fife merchandise more and more. And then all of a sudden, he just changes from being a Belfast Giants fan to a Fife fan. He's going that way. I told you, it's happening.
Listen, lads, I just got my wardrobe mixed up. I honestly thought this was the first night I was supposed to be recording the Fife Flyers podcast, but no, I've got it completely wrong. It's not happening. It's not happening. I can't say I didn't pitch it, but it's not happening.
Was it pitched as Door 14 Presents or Door 14 Enterprise or Door 14 Productions?
You know what? I even pitched Aaron's fantastic name for the podcast, the Door 14 Flyers Focus Show, or in short, Door 14 FFS. Needless to say, I'm still waiting on the call back from Fife. So you never know. It might come. We might yet be a franchising podcast. But honestly, this was just to see if I could get a rise out of Marty.
It is a
And-
really nice jersey,
and-
though. I'll give
know-
you that. But
Do you know
yeah,
what?
still.
It's I will give this. It's my only Fife jersey at the minute.
At the moment.
If Fife want their really, really nice jerseys from last year or jerseys from this year put out on an international stage on podcast, do you know what? I'll even say if they wanted me to reveal a jersey live on the podcast, I'd wear it.
Ooh.
I'll do it.
Oh, John. No, John. Aaron, are you happy enough now? If we move
Oh,
on to period
yeah,
one?
sorry.
Did you
I was
did
just-
you get that off your
I
chest?
think for a good 30 seconds because it took me out of by surprise.
Well, yes. Oh, I did meant to mention, sorry, before we move in the period one, is our combined TikTok video this week for the first time ever. John kind of strong-armed us into doing a TikTok video, which also
Listen,
your
Aaron got it right. Aaron got it right in the group chat.
It's your
It's
fault.
nothing to do with me. It's all your fault.
No.
You went to ChatGPT. You asked it to write the script, and it delivered. All I asked was that you deliver me the videos, and I said I'd put them together. I put them together, and lo and behold, it's a fantastic product.
Well, John, it was if I remember correctly in our last podcast, and I'll go back and I'll find that part of the video if you'd like. If I remember correctly, in our last podcast, you had asked if it'd be possible for us to if it would be possible for us to do some videos, or would we like to take part in some videos? And we were I think we were all like, but yeah. So there you go. You got your wish. We all did a video, and I believe I'm doing one again tomorrow for you. So
listen, yep, we know Marty's going to be the star of the show this weekend. I did the weekend preamble, looking at the games ahead. I'll be totally honest. I actually missed a game in the graphics and in everything. I think was it a Sunday game? Guildford Cardiff. I think I missed on the graphic. So sorry, Anthony. Hopefully the tens of people who are seeing our TikToks weren't put off not getting Guildford's webcast because they happen to look at our
Put them out of
graphics and
business,
thought,
so we will.
Guildford aren't playing this Sunday. We'll not bother. Saying that, 6-2 win to Cardiff, maybe just as well.
yeah.
But yeah, I've double checked and triple checked this week. The graphic is correct. So
No, it's just
you'll
up
have
to me to
Marty's
make
lovely
sure.
face telling you. Marty's lovely face is going to tell you all the action that's happening this weekend in the Elite League and in the Challenge Cup.
And how much alpha slang are you
We'll
going
see.
to use? Is it going
Anyway,
to be
let's get
3?
stuck into period one finally. All right, period one is a roundup of
Whoa!
Right. Period one is a roundup of news from around the UK. John just done a quick change there while the graphic was up, and his Fife jersey has just disappeared all of a sudden.
Talking about
Okay.
things that have just disappeared.
So Marty has just disappeared. Clearly, if you're watching the podcast, you will know that. So Aaron, let's just go from where we are here. The Elite League is in full flow, amongst many other things. But let's look outside of the Elite League to start with. Marty, hope you don't mind me jumping in, just keeping the ball rolling here. But let's start with outside of the EIHL, but one of the EIHL teams. Let's start with the Sheffield Steelers. Let's give them their due. We have to talk about the Champions Hockey League. We have to talk about what they are doing in the Champions Hockey League. Marty, I'll come to you first. 4 games, 3 wins. They're sitting slap bang in the middle of the promotion zone in the CHL table. 3 impressive wins. 1 on the road, 2 at home in front of massive crowds, 8,000 plus crowds in Sheffield. We can't sniff at it. Seriously, can we?
I mean, I said it before we went into period one here during the introduction part. You can say whatever you want, but it's impressive. I already described it as impressive, and I'll stand by that. And I do genuinely believe that. I think, we've talked a lot in the past and previous seasons about teams from the Elite League having a team from the Elite League in the CHL to represent the quality and the play in the EHL and the AHL, and not letting it slip through. And we talked about the fact like so many teams last year turned down the opportunity, or well, that was for we had like obviously we had the whole thing around Guildford and stuff and stepping down from their chances in the Continental Cup and European blah 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 blah. And I stand by the fact that we still need to have a team representing the UK in these competitions. And in the past we've seen teams perform in the CHL, win a game here and there, win maybe one or two games, whatever it is. But the Sheffield Steelers this year are doing something, and it hurts me to say it because I'm not a Sheffield Steelers fan, but I have to give them their dues. They're doing something pretty special at the moment, having those 3 games out of the 4 won. And I do genuinely want to see Sheffield advance to the next stage of this competition for 2 reasons. One, to keep representing the UK and representing the quality of hockey that is being performed here in the UK, and 2, let them get busted in the European competition and leave domestic to everyone else. Not that they should be fearing it this year because the Belfast Giants roster looks pretty epic. But yeah, it helps if their focus is somewhere else than domestic. That's my thoughts on it anyway.
Aaron, only 1 loss so far against Freiburg, but 3 wins against Vakio, Sparta Prague, and Skellefteå. I mean, these are not teams to be sniffed at. The win over Sparta Prague, in particular, a 5-1 win. Now, there has been insinuations that perhaps the likes of Sparta and Skellefteå maybe looked at Sheffield as an easy game, and perhaps didn't field what could have been their top team. But wins are wins, and progression to the knockout stage in this new reformatted CHL is something that hasn't been done by an elite league team, and it's raising eyebrows.
You give it that introduction that they're mid-table, so out of what 24 teams, top 16 go through, they're 8th.
Sorry, that's what I meant. They're mid in the right slap bang in the middle of the numbers who will progress through to the last 16.
Yeah. So they're absolutely, as Marty said, they are absolutely representing. And how they done last year, of course, they have a very strong team too to do that representing. But then you're talking about Sparta, they're not doing well at all. They're down at the bottom. They're 4 games played with 1 win. So of course, we can say that they might not be looking at Sheffield as they might have looked at them as an easy win, but to me it looks like Sheffield Steelers won that fair and square.
My biggest part of it is when I saw after their win against Sparta Prague, I looked at the games that they had coming up, and I looked at Vakio, and I went, how can they possibly? I mean, they were sitting, I think at the time they were sitting 2nd in the table. Now, after the loss, they are sitting still in 3rd in the table. The only loss they've taken so far in 4 games is to the Sheffield Steelers. So that is a team that's thereabouts for the championship every single year. They've won it before as well. So have Skellefteå, if I'm right. I think Skellefteå are former champions of the CHL as well. Now, they've got a big game, which could be the make or break of progression against Zurich, against the Lions. That's going to be enormous. That's a massive game. It is an away game as well. They do have one more home game against a team that we know very well in Belfast, against Dynamo Pardubice. Pardubice? Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm doing the Marty thing. I cannot remember how you pronounce that properly. But that's at home. If they keep things close with Zurich, I reckon there's a shout. I think they're in with a shout of this. Now, like you said, Marty, I really do hope they get into it, because then they've got at least one more game against top European opponents through the season as well, because there'll be a few week break after they come back from the next game days, as they call them in the CHL. I hope they absolutely knacker themselves.
I was just going to say that, John, as you mentioned, you've got two games left coming up in October time. And I kind of felt like when I looked at the fixtures and looked at kind of like the standings and kind of looked at how the teams have been performing so far, it's a very 50-50 looking running now the last two games they have. It looks like, potentially lose one, take one potentially. But stranger things have happened. To this point, at this point, Sheffield have surprised us. Who knows what's going to happen within the last two games? Yeah, I see Dynamo did win their game last night because it was the reason why I remember that. I don't know that is because it was a big conversation around that. It was I've forgotten his name from the NHL, moved over to I can't remember his name. Jaeger. It was like his 36th season or something. Launched yesterday or something or whatever it was, and then he lost this game. His first game lost, and I was just reading it earlier on, so that was a side note. But yeah. Who knows? As you said,
I think it's really interesting to tell because we obviously everyone's out looking at the Steelers now because of not of course because of this, but because of last year winning all the cups. So this is a good tell that they haven't lost any steam over the break. And you mentioned about us having a very strong roster this year. And yeah, we would need it if they continue to play like this.
That's a point I was going to make before we moved on. Is we joke about we hope they knacker themselves, but let's be honest. These are a handful of games, half a dozen games. Guys are not going to be absolutely knackered off the back of this. They've got a long season ahead. What this is proving is that Sheffield are a real contender. I think we've got two teams. It's a two-team league this season, the same as it was last year. It's going to be incredibly interesting. The first meeting of these two teams, by that I mean the Sheffield Steelers and the Belfast Giants, is going to be incredibly telling because we've got an idea already of how good Sheffield are. What we've seen so far from Belfast is that I think they're a couple of weeks behind the Steelers when it comes to having game pace under their legs. I think defensively the Giants have a lot of work to do, especially letting 5 pass from Dundee. All credit to Dundee. They have massively increased their firepower in their forwards this season. But we've got a net-minding change in Belfast that's going to take time to bed in as well. Defensively, do we look a little bit shaky? Potentially. As we progress and we play, I don't want to say better teams, but as we play other teams, that's going to become more and more apparent about how set up for the season Belfast are. Sheffield are setting the bar, and make no bones about it, they will be incredibly tough to catch through the season.
Yep, agreed. Yep. I will continue on if that's okay, John. Now that I'm back and
it's your period, mate. I just took over very quickly.
That's fine. No, it's fine. Thank you so much for introducing that story and taking over for me. I do appreciate that. The next story that we do have is the first. Well, I believe it's the first departure of the season of a player, and that is Coventry Blaze announcing that they have parted ways with netminder. Cam Gray due to family reasons. Who has departed as of I think today. He's left the club and has went home. The statement that was put out by Gray himself said, "I'd like to thank Kevin Moore and the Coventry Blaze for giving me the opportunity to be part of such a strong, storied organisation. After careful consideration, I've decided that being back home is the best decision for me and my family at this time, and I wish the team nothing but the best for this season." Head coach Kevin Moore added, "I would like to thank Cam for his commitment to the Blaze the last few weeks. As far as I'm aware, he played in 2 preseason games and had yet to feature in any domestic competition in terms of Challenge Cup or League. Maybe I'm wrong there, but yeah, that's the first departure of the season, I do believe. Maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong there. So just kind of wanted to highlight that. That's a quick story. We don't think we have anything else to add to that, do you, boys?
Family first and all that.
No, we didn't really get the opportunity to see the guy, so it's perhaps unsurprising that if you're going to have a guy who wants to move on, now is the time to do it. They've obviously said that there's family reasons, whatever else. That's fine. If a guy doesn't feel like the room is working for him or whatever else, even if it's a coaching decision, whatever, now's the time to make it. Rather than down the stretch, you have an issue in the room and you've got to make a switch around Christmas time or later. That's just not sensible. This is the time to make it. Is it ideal that it's netminding? Absolutely not. But it'll be interesting to see what the team does to fill that gap in the roster.
Yep, 100%. John, I think the last 3 stories in this period are yours, so I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah. So let's stick with departures in a way, just very quickly. As was alluded to slightly earlier on by Anthony Russell, when you very quickly shot off Marty just for a few seconds, he thought that you had joined Johnny Cornell in Hull very quickly. Maybe you were away to set up a Door 14 does a Hull Seahawks podcast. But this was the news that Johnny Cornell has moved from Manchester and will be on a season-long loan to the Hull Seahawks. This will give him the opportunity to get more ice time, supposedly. Well, no, it will, because he's going in as an import into Hull. So he will get ice time here. Interestingly, this was a reaction to Hull having parted ways with one of their imports just earlier in the day. It was announced that Caden Hannas had been released from the club with immediate effect. Now, again, interesting part of the story for me is not so much the moves or the fact that it's a season-long loan, which will... My understanding would be then that Manchester will have, if you want, first dibs on having him back next season. Is more about the connections that we're seeing between elite league teams and teams in the NIHL. The wording that's used by Manchester in the news story is about the continuing support and growing strong ties with the Seahawks. So to me, this sounds very much like farm team up and down. It's nothing like the Steelers and the Steel Dogs because they have the same owners, but it looks like Manchester and Hull have looked at an agreement on player development and even going so far as to look at their imports and to look at the potential there when it comes to their imports. So really, really interesting to see that sort of move. Do you think we're likely to see more of these sort of deals going down?
I kind of came as a bit of surprise, obviously, seeing that, obviously a Canadian forward, being the person who's on loan. And it was the fact that the statement had said that he will continue skating in Manchester and remain part of the organization. But as you said, John, what I did find very interesting when I read this article for the first time, my mind did jump straight away to obviously the change we talked about in the last podcast in the league this year, where they talked about the the two-way players and two-way contracts, and obviously having two-way players coming in and filling spots that aren't counted towards your roster. And I just thought to myself, well, if they're wanting to build strong ties with the Seahawks, kind of similar to you were sensing that you were mentioning with Sheffield, is this their kind of intention of, if we need to pull a two-way from somewhere, we're going to do it from Hull?
Well,
who knows?
That was actually my question. Was like, does that mean that if Manchester gets an injury or whatever it might be, can they pull him back throughout that year, or is that's a year done?
No, because there'll be different rules. Though this won't follow the same rules when it comes to the likes of the two ways. So because he's an import, the rules will be very, very different about that. So it's not the fact that I think they could just pull him across. That would have an instant impact on their maximum roster for the season. Yeah. So the fact that this is a departure, I'm going to assume that at this point, does it or doesn't it count to their maximum roster? Not really sure.
Does it open up a space for them? Does it open up a...
Well, it certainly opens up a space for them to bring in a replacement, but is this one of their overall replacements for the season, or does the loan in itself effectively reduce the import numbers that Manchester have had for the season? I don't really know. I imagine there will have been discussions with the league about this one and how it affects Manchester's roster going forward.
Interestingly, Anthony put up, haven't spoken to Hull today. There's no formal agreement, but when situations arise, they'll work together. I think that's kind of what we were kind of saying, is like it'll work in their favor when they need it to. And I think we will maybe see some of that two-way kind of action happen that sounds a bit wrong, but yeah, two-way booking crossover. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Well, yeah, wait and see kind of
It'll be
situation
interesting
again.
to see. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how these relationships progress on. And I don't want to labour the fact. I don't want to have this be the thing that we talk about as part of this. But I did watch A View from the Bridge this week, Anthony, and you had a brilliant back and forward with Paddy and Davey and Marty about the whole development side. Is the Elite League about development? Isn't it? Do they take a chance? Do they not? Can they afford to? Really, really interesting conversation that literally could be its own British ice hockey podcast. Like, you could do it every single week and have 2 hours and still come back the next week and have another 2 hours. It's a really interesting conversation, but it was really, really good to listen to you on AVF TV this week. So fair play for putting your point across and putting it across exceptionally well, Anthony.
You're right.
Do you want me to carry on? Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So let's talk clan, guys. We can't put it off. We have to talk clan. So, Marty, you talked about at the start of the podcast, the clan are 4 domestic games into the season. They are yet to score a single point in either the cup or the league. Wasn't the only news that came out of Glasgow this week, though, that maybe, let's say, disappointed people, especially perhaps some fans. Now, the Glasgow clan have given an update this week on investment from their new ownership group. They talked about the major investments that the new owners have made as far as new ice plants, new screens, changes to the arena, all the rest of it. However, off the back of this came some announcements about changes to ticket prices and also the zoning of the arena. So, guys, let's just let's throw this up here. So, if you've been to Braehead before, you will know that they have assigned colour or zones in their arena. There's gold, silver, and bronze, and correspondingly, your the amount you pay changes depending on where you are. As part of these changes to the arena and changes to charging, the gold zone has massively increased, amongst a great deal of other things. Ticket prices across the board have gone up as well, and it perhaps hasn't been the most well taken piece of news in the greater Renfrew area. Aaron, you were the one who noticed specifically about ticket prices. Do you want to kind of give us the breakdown, if you want, just on the adult prices even?
Yeah, so as you kind of mentioned, the 3 zones, the largest zone being gold. So that's kind of like the biggest go-to. Now, you got to remember that you got the baseline, and then because it's going through, I'm guessing it's going through Ticketmaster, you've got a handling fee. Is it not going through Ticketmaster?
I think it goes through their own ticket handler. I don't think it's Ticketmaster, though.
Really? So their own ticket handler, there's a 10% booking fee and then a £1.50 facilities fee on top of the prices that we're about to say. So a gold adult ticket starts at 26 quid. When you put everything on top of that, I can't remember. It's pretty much, it's close to 30 quid. Marty, you're on mute, buddy.
Yeah, sorry. That's a rookie mistake there. Yeah, it's £30 and 10p in total.
£30
when you add on. Yep.
Game.
Yep.
Absolutely insane. Now, when you go to silver, it's £23 plus the handling fees and the 10% booking fee. And then bronze, their cheapest adult ticket, starts at 20 quid plus the handling fee plus the booking fee.
I mean, silver is like what, 27.80, and then that means bronze is 23.50 for a bronze ticket. So your standard ticket for an adult is
Even bronze
£23.
adult is probably one of the most expensive tickets in the Elite League.
Essen-
Anthony, ever
essentially, from what I
the
understand,
good
they
one
link
there.
you
It's
for
a
like
clanger.
dinner.
It's
Yeah.
a clanger.
I mean, you know, I get what they're saying. You know, obviously, if you read the statement that they put out this week, obviously about record investment that they've put into the Glasgow Clan in order to make it sustainable, in order to kind of create, or you know, to kind of increase overall experience for everyone. Blah 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 blah. You know, obviously they've put in £400,000 of investments along with upgrades, the dressing rooms, hospitality areas. They've created their, what was it called last year? I don't know if it's called the bump zone or whatever it was. They called it last year, cringy, whatever it was.
It was weirdly
But I
called the
think
fist pump zone.
that's it. That's exactly what it was.
Oh,
Oh, and also don't forget there was also an excess of £1 million that they spent, I think, in increasing brand new ice pad and ice facilities. In terms of, I think they put in a new ice, like a new ice
Well, they
plant and
put in
stuff.
a new ice plant which wasn't ready in time. So
And then
my
obviously,
understanding is the guys still haven't trained on that ice.
and then I think, wasn't it this year they added in that nice new screens and stuff,
Jumbotron type
the
thing. Yeah, I think that
Jumbotron
was
type
that
plan.
was £400,000 the screen.
I think it's part of the investment. I don't know if it was it, or was that itself investment. Oh, it was. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, you can see the investment they're putting in. You can see what they're trying to do, but in doing so, they have created a point where they're pricing the tickets to a point where people are kind of, obviously fans are shouting out about it, that it's getting pricey, it's getting more expensive. Then you need to take into consideration that they like so many of the teams this year had to close off their season ticket applications because they had reached a max capacity for season tickets. Now, if you've got a season ticket
50% of that arena,
it's
50% of that
yeah,
arena
okay.
is sold
So
as season ticket seats this year.
they're selling the other 50% at these ticket prices here, is what I believe. So therefore, obviously, that's, you know, the whole big thing around, you know, price points and everything else in relation to that, and about versus the season ticket. So if you bought your season ticket, you're probably advantaged right now because you obviously bought your season ticket at a lower price bracket and lower
I was
tariff
actually
than
just
what it is
looking
now.
up. I know how much the ticket was. The season ticket. Any idea?
No, I don't. No,
No, I can't remember.
I can't remember. But so what I'm thinking is, and I did see someone comment today, it was like, you know, is there going to be a point where the Glasgow Clan feel that they have outgrown their rink, and have admiration
That's
for
my
an arena
biggest point.
team?
That was one of my favourite comments of the whole conversation was, is Braehead big enough for the clan now? And the reality is, it probably never was, but it was the only realistic, available ice that was available to the Braehead clan, as it was now the Glasgow Clan. There's limited space in that area, in that arena. You literally can't make it bigger. It's attached to the shopping centre in such a way that you can't redevelop, you can't add more seats. Now, they're not going to be able to change that. They're investing in this rink. They've put in whatever they've put in, £1 million plus the screens, 1.5 million plus everything else they've put in. They're clearly not about to move away from the Braehead shopping centre. The reality is, if they're selling 50% of their seats as season tickets and they're relying on gate money and they're having to put their tickets up this much, that arena is not big enough for what that ownership group wants that team to be. That's just the reality.
Yep.
Where they go from here, I have absolutely no idea, because once they start pricing people out, they're going to get to a point where they're going to fill it out with people who are already paying huge amounts of money. The next thing is they end up pissing off their season ticket holders by really increasing the season ticket price.
Yeah.
That's the next move I see here.
And then it brings us back to what the comment that I made earlier on when we were looking through the standings about the first 4 games of the season. You know, the owners have made a comment about the fact that, you know, they put significant money into the infrastructure of the arena and infrastructure around it, all that stuff. But they also put significant money into what they said was building a team this year that would be a step above last year, because obviously they said it was disappointed with obviously how the team finished last year. Therefore, more investment is put into the on ice product too this year in terms of trying to increase that. So my question, but this is what I'm saying, is they put all this money in, but then as we all know with everyone, and it doesn't matter which team you are, you could be a big arena team, you can be a smaller rink team, you know, with the smallest size arena, like we've seen it most recently in Fife in most recent years. your gate corresponds directly with team performance and on ice performance. The fact that Glasgow have started off 4 losses at the start of this season already, I'm not saying it's going to continue that way. I'm not going to say the form is going to continue that way, but they've put in all this investment. They're going to need to make sure that that team is performing in order to make sure that they're making that money that they're looking to make for this price of tickets, in my opinion.
Here, look, one step ahead of the team they had last year. I think 9th's achievable.
Yeah. Harsh, but yeah, true. Yeah.
I think I read somewhere it's essentially a tenner a ticket increase from last year. But
if that's true, that's daylight robbery for what you're getting from that team.
Remind me, this time last year that the rink went into administration or something like that? It was
2 years ago.
2 years ago. Is that 2 years ago?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
2 years
I
ago,
know.
it went into administration, and then I think the new owner came in and took it all on. So
Yeah.
we talk about it. In amongst everything else, the new ownership group has also taken on the running and the administration of the arena as well as a venue. The whole mess and the new ownership and everything that came from the debacle of the signing that should never have been a signing. That was when the well-known previous owner, after all the PR, decided to sell on, and now we've got Premier Sports essentially owning the team. Unsurprisingly, putting their team on way more now than they do any other Elite League team, with a separate deal that they've got with the Clan, as opposed to any sort of deal with the Elite League, which actually, from everything that I've seen so far, the lack of everything that I've seen so far this year, doesn't look like we've got a TV deal this year, guys, other than the Clan.
Nope. Nothing.
Right. Separate to that, let's move on, because we've talked about the Clan.
The one thing,
sorry,
the last thing I was going to say, because when I was coming into tonight's episode, I was going to actually big up the Clan for something that they were doing, but it was just worth mentioning was they obviously announced their just before the season had started, and obviously this past week, or I think it was actually potentially 2 days ago, that their first Clan Academy, the first term of a Clan Academy, which is their version of developing young players and young kids to kind of get into the world of hockey, is open, and it's part of this new initial academy that's going to be starting for the first time. So it's a learn to play program that they're starting, and I thought that was a great story that they were doing. And then obviously then I seen this whole thing around the tickets, and it was like, oh, Clan, you just don't do yourselves any favors. But hey, moving on, John.
No, they really don't. Yeah, let's move on. We've talked about the Clan too much, guys. It's never nice talking about the Clan. The last story that we have for period 1, guys, is one that will resonate with fans, not just in the Elite League, but with fans of hockey across the world. It was announced in the last day or so that the Nottingham Panthers, on Saturday the 14th of December, before their game against the Fife Flyers, will officially retire the number 47 worn by Adam Johnson, who tragically lost his life last season in an on-ice incident. A special ceremony will take place pre-game, where they will remember Adam, and his jersey will become the 7th in Panthers history to be retired by the club. Panthers CEO Omar Pasha said, "We were honoured to have Adam in Nottingham, and not only was he a great talent on ice, he was a fantastic person off the ice as well. We all want Adam's memory to live on for who he was as a person, and he contributed to the sport of ice hockey." There will be more details shared closer to the time as well, but tickets are already on sale for this game. So a lot of teams tend to only sell blocks of games in a time leading up, but clearly they understand that there will be a depth of feeling amongst their own fan base and other fan bases. And they've opened up the ticket sales for this game. And indeed, already I've seen quite a number of Sheffield Steelers fans who have suggested that they would like to have a contingent of Sheffield Steelers fans in the arena for this jersey number retirement. Guys, it was always very likely, I think, as a mark of respect for Adam, that this number would be retired. I don't know if you guys want to add anything, or if we we just want to move on to the next part of period 1?
No, I think we can move on. Just to reiterate, as you say, tickets obviously on sale for that. But I think it was always bound to come. I think after everything that had happened in Nottingham last year, or in Sheffield, obviously for Nottingham last year, I think it was inevitable that that number 47 would go into retirement. I don't think anybody in Nottingham would dare, shall we say, or would in honor of Adam, I suppose, would want to wear that number 47 again. So I think it's the right decision.
100%.
Yeah.
I do love that quote there. We all want Adam's memory to live on for who he was as a person and what he contributed to the sport of hockey. And I think that's a great way to honor him.
Yeah. Guys, before we move on to the penalty box, I'm going just to make things a wee bit lighter again there. Just and we're talking about Sheffield, and you're saying about obviously Sheffield, talking about fans traveling down for this game in Nottingham. Did anybody see today? I think I shared it with you, so you definitely did see it. The post put out on the Sheffield Steelers social media channels, particularly X or Twitter as it used to be known, of asking fans if they chartered a plane, tickets costing just under £1,000 or whatever, would anybody be interested in traveling with the team? So the whole thing would be I think the whole catch was you get to travel with the team. And it was like, I said it to you boys, and I was like, do they mean if it's under £1,000, does that mean it's £999 and 99p? I mean, what price?
So let's put this in context. So this is it's a discussion. So the team, as I understand it, hasn't yet chartered this plane. No. It would be to get them to Zurich to face the Lions in their potentially final away CHL regular season game, as the CHL call this round robin series, their regular season. So yeah, it was put out there. It was put out there with this. Would you want to do this if it was less than £1,000? And the insinuation seemed to be as well that this wouldn't include any sort of hotel. It's literally an out and back. Mm-hmm. The plane will land. You'll go to the game. You'll come back to the airport. You'll get straight back on that plane, and you'll come straight back home. Listen, if that does end up being £999.99, then there better be a jersey under my seat. There better be a whole pile of other things available, because I did notice in the comments a lot of people instantly went and priced up what they could do or what they could get to get out to Zurich for the game ticket. A lot of people were coming up with about £300 is what they could do this trip with. And that would include a hotel stay in Zurich.
You just beat me to it. That's exactly the tweet I have in front of me right now. Got flight and hotel for $300 total.
I was gobsmacked when I seen it earlier on today. I just thought to myself, did someone was this a serious tweet? Was this a serious tweet or not? It's insane.
Was it serious? Was it a tongue-in-cheek thing, or
no?
Are they being deadly serious?
No, I think they're being deadly serious.
My understanding, my expectation is that this is not specifically aimed at the run-of-the-mill fans. This is aimed at their corporate sponsors. This is aimed at their much better off fans who would want the experience of being on a chartered flight with the team and getting that whole experience. Now, as a Belfast fan, if you happen to accidentally pick your flight right or pick your ferry right, 90% of the time, you're on the same travel schedule as the Giants anyway. So for Giants fans to be asked that, you'd be like, no, of course not. I'm pretty sure the last time we went to Germany for the Conti Cup, the time we just missed out on it in Bremerhaven, I'm pretty sure everyone on the flight back was hungover and from Belfast and was on their way home. And we booked that by accident. We didn't need the team to sort that for us.
No.
But I understand what the team are trying to do. There are football teams, there are rugby teams, there are any number of different teams who offer this as a potential package. And what it does is it offset. What it does is it offsets the cost of travel for teams. So what they do is they charge more than what the actual travel costs to their sponsors and their fans for the opportunity to mingle and be on the same flight, be in the airport, potentially be in the airport lounge with the players, with the staff of the team. I understand it. What's wrong here and what has caused so many arguments online, I think, is the way that it's been pitched. I think what this should have been is an ask of their corporate sponsors first. I think they. Do you ever get that could have been an email? Well, that
Yeah.
post on X could
Yeah.
have been an email.
Yeah, 100%.
It shouldn't have been a post on X just yet. What
No.
they should have done is go to their corporate sponsors, figure out what it's going to be, decided whether or not it's something that they can A, afford to do, and B, want to do, and then say, Steelers fans, we have an opportunity for you. There are 30 extra seats on this chartered flight. It's going to cost you £300 for your flight. Do you want to come with the team? We'll even organise your bus transfer for you for an extra 20 quid. Do something like that. Not, do you want to come with the team? It'll cost about £1,000. We're not going to get you a hotel. We're going to get you there, get you back. We're not even going to tell you if we're going to get you a ticket to the game either. It's just going to cost you £1,000 to fly out on a chartered flight. I don't know. It's the Steelers media issue monster all over. Like it's the gift that keeps on giving.
I'm
Indeed.
personally looking forward to the tweet about how much it's going to cost to get a chartered Stena Line ferry for the Giants.
Oh,
Except that's the next time we go to the CHL, and what they're going to do is just take the Superfast 7 all the way to Germany.
It'll be chartered though.
It will be chartered.
Right. Sorry, I kind of segued us kind of sideways there. Let's get back on track. It was worth talking about anyway. And let's have a quick look at the penalty box segment for period 1, because we actually do have something for it. And the penalty box segment is stories that have caught our attention, or should we say bans, suspensions, whatever that might be across the UK. And Dops is alive and well, people. Dops is alive and well. We joked in the last podcast, I think, John, if I remember correctly, we joked around about the fact that like Dops will be pretty much on hand in the first few weekends of the season, and then all of a sudden they'll probably taper off and we won't hear from them again probably until the end of the season. But here it is. Dops have put out their first statement after this past weekend's play, and it was an incident in the Flames versus Devils game on the 15th of September. On Sunday night in Guildford, Devils defenseman Josh Batch was deemed to have been the aggressor in an altercation which resulted in multiple blows to an unwilling combatant. With 2 minutes and 33 left in the game, Devils defenseman Josh Batch is engaged in a puck battle with Flames forward Matt Alvaro. When making a play on the puck, Flames forward Daniel Cincinnati. John, name.
Catenacci.
Thank you. Makes legal body contact with Batch. Batch took exception to the contact and cross-checked him twice as both players skidded towards the net. After receiving 2 cross-checks, then slashed Batch between the legs, making contact in the high thigh groin area. This is slashing. Batch immediately dropped the gloves, delivered multiple blows to an unwilling combatant, forcing John, line.
Catenacci
to defend himself after both players fell to the ice. Batch continued to throw multiple punches to his opponent. This is an aggressor. Effective immediately, Cardiff Devils. Josh Batch is fined and suspended for 1 game. Guildford Flames is John, name.
Catenacci.
It's fine. There we go. John, thoughts?
My first thought is I really don't like the way that Dops aren't doing videos for anything less than 3 games. Just for the fact that last season I finally figured out how to show the Dops videos on the podcast here, and now we're waiting for serious bans to come back into the Dops circle. So anything above 3, we start getting videos again. But for stuff like this, we now don't get video, which means as a fan, let alone as a podcaster, but as a fan, I now don't get the opportunity to look at what happened. I don't get to form my own opinion. Dops are going to tell me what happened, and I almost don't know if it's to stop the conversations online that we've had before. Now, what is going to end up happening is this is going to come down to fan videos. We're going to start seeing stuff on British hockey fights, and we're going to see other profiles putting these out with shaky camera phone. What age am I? Like phone footage of these incidents because the league is no longer either willing or able to put out videos for anything less than 3 games. I don't like it. I don't understand it. I can accept that it was maybe a time issue because look, cutting a video is hard. Cutting a video, doing the voiceover. Luke did every voiceover for Dops last year. And in fact, for the last few seasons, Luke Fisher did all of the voiceovers. He's got a regular job to be getting on with helping run the league. But the league is supposed to be getting more professional. It would be nice to actually see these incidents. On another side, hey, the fines are back. Where does the money go? What does it pay for? Who knows?
Oh, it's yeah, exactly. It's just another season of the unknown. We'll continue saying it every single time a Dops thing is put out. We'll constantly say, "Where does the money go?" Someday we'll find out. We'll find out.
Let's hope it goes to a video editor.
Yeah, yep. That's it. I don't think we have anything else in period 1. Just that one penalty in this penalty box segment. So I think with that,
Can I throw one thing out here just when we're talking about Dops in particular? I want to highlight one thing. It's not Dops that we talk about all the time. This is NIHL Dops. And I just want to point out for everyone that maybe isn't aware that it's happening but maybe has an interest in the NIHL. Anthony's Banners on the Wall chat channel has an interview dropping tomorrow with the heads of NIHL Dops, Ken Riddle and Alan Bachelder. Anthony, I hope I got that one right. It's out tomorrow night on the Banners on the Wall YouTube channel. There's been a lot of chat over the last couple of seasons about NIHL Dops. We know Anthony very well. He'll probably be asking some really good questions of these guys about what NIHL Dops looks like going into this season and the developments and changes that have happened in there. So just to throw it out there, that drops tomorrow night. Go over, check out Banners on the Wall and catch that interview tomorrow.
Perfect. Okay, boys, let's move on to period 2 of hockey.
Okay, we've got period 2 of hockey. They knew exactly, like, is he going to say anything? Period 2 of hockey, which is international hockey. Anything that's outside of the UK. Yeah, there are some other leagues out there. Now, the good news is that, John, you look like you've got a couple of stories here. One that might make our loyalist fan very happy. Mark, with the very first one there.
I'm going to rephrase that. Our most loyalist fan. We say that tongue in cheek. Okay.
Yes.
You have to say most loyalist.
Did I not say
fan.
most?
No. No. So, Mark, I apologize for Aaron. You are still our most loyalist fan out there.
Most loyalist fan.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're not just a loyalist. Yeah. So, big news out of Pittsburgh this week was the 2-year extension to Sidney Crosby's contract. He has massively undercut himself in the market. He was a free agent going into this summer, and he has chosen to stay in Pittsburgh. Kyle Dubas, who Marty knows very well, recently formerly of the Toronto Maple Leafs parish, since now the GM of, not personally, Marty, sorry.
I was like, wow.
Now the GM of the Pittsburgh Penguins has said that he massively understands the personal sacrifice that Sidney Crosby has made in signing just a $6.7 million per year extension to his contract. Now, why 6.7? Interestingly enough, his number is 67. So he's decided to take a 6.7 million extension over the 2 years. So really, or sorry, 6.7 per year. Sorry, I should say.
I
Now
mean,
that
Heard
frees
that.
up a
I hope
huge
we
amount
can
of cap
survive.
space. Frees up cap space for the Penguins to, and I think Kyle Dubas has pretty much said, look, we're in the market, we're looking for players. We are looking to bring the Penguins back to where they were several seasons ago as real cup contenders. Last couple of seasons, they've been in the doldrums. There's a reason they took on a GM from Toronto. Sorry, Marty, but they were probably aiming at their level on the market by bringing in Kyle Dubas. And Kyle has a plan. And it means that Sid, for at least now, stays in Pittsburgh. Will he probably see out his playing career in Pittsburgh? More than likely. He'll get one or two more seasons, maybe. But likelihood is that he's going to stay in Pittsburgh. And I'm just realising, Fuzz, you're absolutely right. It's 87 is his playing number. I thought it was too much of a coincidence, and I just clearly lasered in on the 7. I thought,
No.
interesting. He's gone with his
John-
playing number.
no, John, you got it right. The contract extension
Oh,
is
did I?
8.7 million per year.
8.7.
I thought you did say 8.7. That's why whenever I seen,
Sorry,
I was like, yeah, it's 8.7
I wrote it down
million
wrong
per-
on the. I
Don't
wrote
worry.
it down wrong on the running order. Sorry, that's my
Two-
mistake. So he's played.
two-
He's getting
yeah.
8.7. So he's gone with his playing number.
Correct. 8.7 playing number. Exactly. You were 100% right. My heart goes out to him only getting 8.7 million. Like it does. Like, imagine just
One
dropping
less
down.
Ivory back scratcher.
Just imagine dropping down from 12 point whatever it was you're making down to 8.7.
What would you
Just,
cut if you had to
you know.
cut 4 million out of your yearly budget? What on earth would you cut?
What? I mean,
Gas and electric.
Gas and electric.
Bread.
charging your charging your super powered cars or whatever. I don't know. You got like multiple of them. I don't know. Fuel costs for I don't know. Good question.
Speaking
Guinness.
of money and speaking of Toronto, John, you've got another story.
Yeah, amazing segue. It's like
Just
you're a
like that.
regular. It's like you're a regular period host. It's remarkable. Marty, you're probably well aware of this news that's broken in the last day or so out of Toronto. This is the fact that Rogers Communications have bought out rather the Bell Communications share of the sports conglomerate MLSE that owns the Toronto Maple Leafs, amongst many, many other sporting franchises in Toronto. Rogers Communication will now own 75% of MLSE and will make them the majority shareholder and majority owner of the Toronto Maple Leafs and others like the Toronto Raptors. And they are the sole owners, as it turns out, of another storied sporting franchise, the Toronto Blue Jays.
Wow. I
So
can't believe it. This was 4.7 billion with a B.
well, this is the thing. The Toronto Maple Leafs are the biggest and most expensive franchise in hockey.
But that wasn't even for 40%. I appreciate, yes, it's building up their percentage to that 75%, but that 4.7 billion with a B was for 37.5% of the business.
And adding to theirs, which gives them the 75.
Yeah.
So they're investing massively. The only thing I can hope is that with all this billions of dollars of investment that are clearly about to go into the Toronto Maple Leafs, that ticket prices can come down slightly. So if I ever happen to be in Toronto again, I'll feel like I want to actually
We've just
go.
seen with the Glasgow tickets are going to go up. When they get investment, tickets go up.
All the tiers are going to be gold tiers in Toronto. You're all going to cost $8,000 to go to a random Thursday game.
Yeah, but it's going to include a free flight. It's going to be a chartered flight with it as well.
Marty, what's your thoughts then? You've got big ownership changes. I said tongue in cheek that that Rogers own the Blue Jays. Not exactly a storied sporting franchise. They've been at the let's call it the bottom end of baseball for quite a long time. And I remember going to games when I lived in Canada when I was about 6. And honestly, I didn't think anything could make baseball more boring, but it turns out Toronto can.
I mean, there's not really much to say. I don't really know. Yeah, obviously purchasing and new buyers obviously will change certain things, but I think what they remember here is yes, this Rogers is buying out a big conglomerate that has ownership on a team, but at the end of the day, I think the ground level, day to day running of the Maple Leafs will still be done by by the chair people there, the directors, sports directors. I don't think you're going to see major changes in terms of anything in relation to that. You know what I mean? Who knows? I mean, it just seems like when you're talking about this size of money, it's mind blowing. Just I can't fathom some of it. Like I think they were talking was something to do with like the value of one of the organizations in total was something like 12.53 billion or something. It's just like it's money that it's just completely unbelievable. Is when you think about it. But when you think about what the sale includes, so obviously the sale that they're looking to get approved here, Rogers are looking to have approved, includes obviously the Maple Leafs. It'll include the NBA team, the Raptors, the CFL Argonauts, the MLS Toronto FC, and the NHL Marlies, plus obviously the arena itself, all added in. It's crazy.
Imagine being the person who's told in Rogers, yeah, your job is now to run all this. How much? So that's a nearly $5 billion payment that's made there. So let's value it at something like 13 billion when you put it all together. If you're running that, how much do you want paid? You imagine what that person's salary is. Like, honestly, it must be like 3 tickets a year to see the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
They're lucky.
Absolutely
if they're
wild.
lucky. We've got 2 more stories for this one. I think we're going to stick with the NHL and come back to your last story, John. But we're going to stick with the NHL, and we're going to talk about. You remember back that Arizona have now moved to Utah. During the summer, they put
the whole state.
Yes, the whole state has moved to Utah.
Oh my God! How did they do it?
It was a massive feat. It cost more than $12 billion, so it did.
That's a big truck.
The team over the summer has put out a poll to name the new Utah ice hockey team. It's been narrowed down to 6. Do you guys know? Can you remember what the 6 finalists names for the Utah team are?
One was like some of them were really crap. So like one of them I think was just like the ice or the blizzard or
yeah. So we've got like, Utah Blizzard.
Grizzlies?
No, there's no Grizzlies. We've got Utah Hockey Club, which is currently what they're going under as well.
So that's what they're going to be this season. Yeah.
But that's all. That was in the poll to kind of keep that name. We also had the Utah Mammoths. We had the Utah Outlaws, Venoms, and the Utah Yeti. So yeah, I liked all the actions to go along with that, John. So
that's a visual thing there for all the visual podcast viewers.
Yeah. So now they haven't officially named the team. They haven't officially announced the name of the team yet. But a potential spoiler has come out just this week. Clayton Keller, a star forward of the Utah HC, Utah Hockey Club, hinted that the team, what the team's name could be during an official interview with NHL.com. Potentially relating the name Yeti before it's actually been made public. So he pretty much said, and I quote, "It sounds like it's going to be Yeti, but I don't know for sure." So it sounds like there's been internal conversations that Yeti's going to be the winner, and that happened on September 11th.
That feels like the training camps are starting up in the NHL. So the last couple of days, a lot of the media days have been happening, so media availability for players. So there was some interesting media out of Toronto around the captaincy that was all happening. And then this one. Now, the interesting thing for me when I look at all these is the media teams for these like NHL teams must give like a briefing at like a morning meeting to these players and say, here's the list of stuff that you can talk about. Here's the list of stuff you can't talk about. I imagine in Utah, one of the big, please don't talk about this because we're going to make a big announcement, is probably the franchise name.
But it's one of those ones though that don't talk about this, and then it's just a big red button going on in the back of your head that you just completely forget about, and then you just spill the beans.
It's like Tom Holland during the Marvel interviews all the time, especially during Endgame and stuff, where he talks about like, oh, and then there was this one scene where like Spider-Man's in space, and then there's just like they kind of try to gloss over what he said, and you can just see Tom Holland's face just being like, oh, I shouldn't have said. Oh, I should have said that. And you can see he gets really uncomfortable, and like as he's sitting there, I think it's with like Jimmy Kimmel or someone or like that, and he just sits there, and you can see his face just going, "What did I just say?" It was,
what I love is I really, really hope that, like, this was an interview for NHL.com. I really, really hope that this was like a new intern, someone like us who has like done this, has found their way into being a sports journalist with the NHL. Someone's like first day, and they've had to go back and write, well, Clayton Keller might have just told me what the franchise is going to be called. It's like, should I report this? And the boss was like, yes, of course you should.
What do you think? What do you think of the name Yeti?
I'm not sold. I thought it was too cutesy and too, I don't know, like too predictable as well.
But aren't they like out of the 6 that they had, like Yeti, Blizzard, Mammoth?
Oh, none of them were good.
No.
Okay.
No. None were good.
I didn't. Yeah. I think, didn't they say that options, like, did you say Venom and Outlaws? Was that 2 of them as well?
Venom and Outlaws. I don't know what. Do you know what the connection is there?
Haven't a clue.
Cool.
No, haven't a clue.
I thought you were going to tell us.
No.
Haven't a clue. I'm just saying.
That's not the kind of in-depth journalism we go for here.
Haven't a clue. I think I just think they just picked random names out of the hat and just like, oh, that.
When I saw Venom, I was like, was the film Venom filler? Was it? Did they shoot it in Utah?
Honestly, if they were to have Tom Hardy come out as their mascot, I'm sold.
Oh.
I don't know. I almost would have preferred them to stay as Utah HC because it would make them different. Like, that would be kind of cool. And I know, and I'll say it right now, when the PWHL teams came out and didn't brand themselves, I had issue with that. I was like, you need to have a brand, you need that identity. Now, the PWHL franchise names have since come out, and I had a conversation with a few people on X about this, and none of them are good, and I feel really bad for the teams because that identity just isn't there for any of them. I stand to be corrected on it, and I said in the conversation, maybe we're all going to be like sitting around talking about when these franchises got their identity, their names, rather than just being a city that's a hockey club. But I think in the NHL, we're up to, what are we now? 32 franchises? 32 with Seattle. Doing something to stand out is really, really difficult. And actually just saying, look, we're a hockey club. We're in Utah. That's who we are. Because there's still that risk of whatever might happen in Arizona, that either that team gets clawed back or Arizona comes back, whatever happens. There is, with every team in the NHL, there's the chance that team might not survive and might move somewhere else and might rebrand. But trying to do something different is very, very difficult in that sort of saturated market. So doing it that way could have been really interesting. But look, if it's Yeti, it's Yeti. The opportunities for mascots,
that's
really
what
good.
I'm going through in my head. Like Mammoth and Yeti, if you think about what's the potential for mascot and logos, the actual logo itself, what they'll be able to do with that, I think will be interesting.
Mammoth would have been cool because if I was going to do it, I would just say go all out, have it be enormous.
I think just
have it be 5 guys in a costume, 4 legs, and 1 guy whose entire job is the trunk.
I was just going to say before we move on,
there are several guys in certain films that could probably be cast to be the trunk. Let's be
John's
honest.
not letting you move on from this, Marty,
He's
at
really
all.
not.
You're sitting there, you're desperately trying to move
No,
on.
I was just saying before.
Do you want me to play the goal horn again, Marty, just to
No, thank
really,
you.
really annoy you?
No, what I was going to say is before we move on from this story, the one thing I was going to say was, I'll just come back to something that John had said there earlier on, about obviously the name, and the name sounded a bit, I don't know, it did sound a bit childish, or sounds a bit, it doesn't
Cutesy.
Cutesy is the word, John used, and I just think to myself, like, is there other teams that whenever they were first named, did I suppose people were probably like, really? That's the name you're going to go for? And I can't really think. I've been sitting here kind of run through my head like the different teams and thinking, which teams do I think initially, if I had heard it, would have been like, oh, really? I can't really think of anything that stands out as glaringly, obviously weird, like compared to this. This is very strange. This Yeti idea. I just don't. Just something about it just doesn't sit right. It just doesn't sound right. I think you're right. I think it's getting harder.
Yeah, even when we saw the Golden Knights and the Kraken, I actually like quite a lot of the names for the Kraken when they were coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Now I didn't really pay attention to what the other options were for Vegas, but I've instantly associated those with those places. Like they fit, they feel really good. But the Utah Yeti, it just doesn't sing to me. Now, before we move on, I know we really want to move on. What?
When you were saying about relating it to it, I don't know anything about Utah. Do you know anything about Utah? Apart from that they've got a hockey team now?
No. Haven't a clue.
No. Can I just throw in, I know I mentioned very quickly about the PWHL, I just want to throw it out there because we haven't talked about it in the podcast, and I just want to throw out what the inaugural 6 team names are. Like it's connected to what we're talking about here. So the 6 teams will be called the Boston Fleet, the Minnesota Frost, the Montreal Victory, the New York Sirens, the Ottawa Charge, and the Toronto Scepters. I don't like any of them. But I stand corrected. Maybe one day we'll all sit back and remember the summer of 2024 when we heard the name the New York Sirens for the first time.
Yeah, who knows? I don't know. I don't think. Yeah, the Boston one kind of definitely was like, what is that?
What was the Boston one again?
Fleet.
Yeah.
Well, it's a coastal town, so Fleet's Landing in Boston.
Okay.
Anyway, I think we will move on to our last story. We'll move on from the NHL. And John, you have a story about the CHL?
Yeah, we're going back to the CHL. And history was made recently in the CHL, where in the game between the Zurich Lions and the Straubing Tigers, Austria's Julia Kainberger, 29 years old, made history by being the first female referee in the CHL, where she worked with Michael Scherig. I'm pretty sure I'm saying his name right. I love the way the CHL reported this because they did not make a massive deal of it pre-game. They didn't draw a huge amount of attention to it. They didn't not draw attention to it, but they did say, if you didn't pay attention to the CHL game between the Lions and the Tigers on Friday, that's a good thing because it means she did her job well, and they're 100% correct with that. So, absolutely brilliant. She said, to be honest, I felt right at home in our group of officials right away. For sure, it was a transition speed-wise early on. After the first couple of minutes, I felt very comfortable reading and working the game. Great conversations with players, coaches, and colleagues. Love the professionalism from everyone involved, and I hope this opens doors for females in the future and also for me personally. I hope that one day no female referee has to be the first one anymore and that we can do this on a regular basis. Now, Kainberger will also be one of the referees, was one of the referees in last Saturday's game between Genevieve Servette and Tampere. And I think she will have some opportunities going forward as the CHL goes on through the end of its regular season and into its playoff season as well. But fantastic piece of news. Not news that we should have to be telling every podcast, but still fantastic for her and fantastic for the game.
Yep.
100%.
There are no glass ceilings in hockey.
None at all. I think that's us for this period, unless anyone else has any other comments or stories.
Nope. I think we have a penalty box though for period 2, so I'll just run. Do we? Yeah, I think we do. John, I think you've been in the penalty box, right? I'll throw up the penalty box now. We'll get stuck in the penalty box for period 2.
So guys, there's only one.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
Nope. Go ahead. Yep.
Sorry, there's only one penalty box in the international bracket, and guys, I've only put it in here because I thought it was an interesting piece. It got a lot of attention not long after our last podcast, actually. On the 7th of September, on game day 2 of the Champions Hockey League, Unia Uzvesham, a Polish team, their fans displayed a banner with what the CHL is calling a political message while they played a home game against German team, the Eisbären Berlin. Now, guys, I sent you a link to the banner in question. It's an interesting message. It links back to some things that maybe happened that did happen in the 1940s. And yeah, do you want to know what the fine was?
I'm
sorry.
It was 2,000 euros.
2,000?
2,000.
2,000 euros.
I literally have just seen
To
it
the
for the first time. I literally just seen it there for the first time.
Same.
That's why I think I was just gobsmacked. I was just like, what the? Unbelievable.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
So only
So
2,000.
the banner, the banner's out there. So I'm going to read what it says, guys. The banner reads in English: "Welcome to the city of your biggest crime," and in much larger letters between that banner it says "German death camps." So, my question: there's no point in us debating it because what happened in the 1940s happened. Does that have a place? And I'm not going to say in sport because we see it quite a lot in football. We see a specific group set of fans who get involved in this sort of thing in football. European hockey it's a different monster from what we see. We've seen it when the Giants have been in European action. We've seen it when European fans, let's call them ultras, have come to Belfast or to other elite league cities. Does this have a place in hockey?
No.
Nope.
I don't think so. Not at all.
There's not much more to say. It's disgusting. It's just, yeah.
No, I'm going to throw this comment up because I think Anthony gets it. It has been a big theme in Polish politics for some time, where Poland want reparations for Germany for what happened, and yeah, it has been. And let's be totally honest, we're not a politics podcast, but there has been a rise in the right as well across Europe, and conversations like this and acts like this are probably going to happen and probably happen more often. But the CHL took a stance on it, a 2,000 euro fine, and we move on. I think from that, I think is the easiest way to move this conversation on, Marty.
Yeah,
I think shall we go?
Just tell Marty and I are just like, don't know what to say.
Yeah,
sorry, honestly, I thought you guys had seen that before, so
No.
sorry for blindsiding you with that one.
No.
Wow.
No, I think you're right, John. I think with that, let's move on to period 3 of hockey.
Period 3 is our general Knocky
Knocky
news.
news.
Oh, it's so smooth. You guys are back on form. Knocky news is for anything and everything else in the world of hockey that we don't think fits very neatly into period 1 or period 2, or more often than not, it's either something to do with jerseys or there's just too much in period 1 and 2 and we need to put it somewhere else for a nice balance on the podcast. Guys, I want to start off, unfortunately, talking about Sheffield, because I'm annoyed at them. Sheffield will not be displaying their season 24-25 jersey until tomorrow. They clearly don't want us breaking the news here on the podcast. They're only going to do their jersey reveal tomorrow night in their arena with fans and everything, and then they're going to play in it on the Saturday. So they haven't shown their jersey to anyone yet. Their pre-sale has been open for weeks, and they're going to reveal it tomorrow night, Friday. So if you're listening now, you can probably go if you're listening on Friday to the audio version of the podcast, you can probably jump online now and see the Steelers jersey. No doubt we'll talk about it in the next podcast. I just wanted to vent my frustration at Sheffield for just being gits.
Well,
Anyway,
jerseys, like all the other teams, that felt like weeks upon weeks, months ago that we knew the jerseys.
Well, it is, but if you think about it, the Steelers haven't, as I mentioned earlier, the Steelers haven't played any domestic competitions yet. They've only played in the CHL, so the jersey they've been playing in is the CHL jersey. So yeah, the releasing it the reason tomorrow. Why is it though it's part of the X post that they obviously announced this, obviously for this event that's happening. Why is it Steelers cross Steel Dogs? Is it like a joint thing?
It's a joint jersey reveal.
Oh.
So I think the because the two teams are shared ownership, so it'll be a joint event with the Steelers and the Steel Dogs, and they'll get together. It's clearly not Anthony's just put it in there. They're doing their jersey reveal tomorrow too, but they've already played a league game.
Cool.
So that's what's happening there. Marty seems to have sidled off for a wee second, so we'll carry on, Aaron, if you don't mind.
Let's do that.
I've got the rest of the stories here, so I'm just going to introduce them and I'll bring you in for a bit of conversation as we go. The first one, we obviously in the last podcast we talked about the sad passing of Johnny Gaudreau, who was hit along with his brother and killed by a drunk driver on the eve of their sister's wedding. Today, the Columbus Blue Jackets have revealed that Johnny Gaudreau's locker will remain filled. It will be left intact, and his jersey will be hung prior to each game this season when they're at home. So he will be a presence on the team this season going forward. Guys, I think that's a great thing for the team to do.
Touch him.
Yeah, lovely. It's definitely.
Honestly, I thought you were going to talk a little bit more about that, so I was taking.
No, it's fine. I was just going to say it's a fitting tribute. It's a nice way to do it. And yeah, I think it's a perfect little tribute for them in the locker room. Kind of, for the boys to kind of then have that presence there, or just have something in honor of him. I think it's a great move.
I think that's the best way to put it as well. His presence. I think that's a great way of looking at it.
I like that he'll be a presence in the locker room. He was well liked, well respected by the guys in that team, so they want to keep him around and keep him part of that team. And I think that's a great thing to do, is to keep him in the locker room. Guys, I'm going to move on. The Vancouver Canucks a couple of days ago put out a statement from player Dakota Joshua. Sorry, not the actress. Dakota Joshua. This summer, Dakota felt a lump on one of his testicles that doctors would later tell him was testicular cancer. The news was scary to hear. Thankfully, the doctors were able to successfully remove the tumour. Last several weeks have been incredibly challenging, and I've been fortunate to have the support of friends and family, teammates, and doctors. Unfortunately, he says he'll not be ready for the start of training camp as he continues to heal from surgery. He plans to return to playing as soon as possible this season, and he's working hard every day to rejoin his teammates. Although it was very difficult to face the reality of this specific type of cancer, getting checked by a doctor quickly was the best approach, and I encourage all men to get checked regularly for testicular cancer. Guys, I think it's sometimes difficult to remember that the guys that we watch play hockey are just that. They're guys. They're the same as you and me. There's an important health message here, specifically for guys, is check your nuts.
Yep. Yeah, you put it eloquently there, John. Exactly that. And I think obviously when this statement went out, and I think it only came out 2 days ago. I think it came out
17th, 2 days ago.
Yeah, 2 days ago. And I think then it kind of led into a few more conversations then, which is good. It's a positive thing that it led to a few more conversations, both on social media after this post, from the NHL and from obviously the Vancouver Canucks and under this, and it's got people talking. It's got guys talking and thinking about it seriously, which is, again, you talk about them being, guys just like us, but then also what we always have to remember as well is that they have a massive impact and influence on those that follow the team. So if you think about the messages that our players put out, a lot of fans will take heed of a lot of stuff that's being said by their favorite players. And so, if anything, by him putting out a statement and being clear about what has happened, he has also brought a spotlight in on a serious enough topic that will make other guys who follow this sport maybe think seriously about checking themselves regularly, as they should do. And so again, it's a positive thing as well, in terms of that message that he's put out, and the fact that he was happy enough to, that he put that message out there to say that people should be getting checked, and the fact that there has been conversations ongoing now after this post. It just shows the impact it can have.
100%. Yeah, I think that we think about hockey and it's a, whether maybe it's an old way of looking at it, it's a manly game. This is a great way to kind of show that we're moving forward. And I think it's interesting that although it was very difficult to face the reality of this specific type of cancer, it's scary as hell, but being able to turn it around and use it as an educational and as you said, way to spread the message for people to check themselves. I think it's a great shout.
Yep, absolutely. And everyone should be checking. Guys, girls.
Yeah.
So he's had positive surgery. He's in recovering from surgery, and he plans to get playing as soon as possible.
That's awesome.
And yeah, I said earlier, guys, get checked. Girls, get checked as well. There's any number of terrible ways that this disease can come up, but there's a lot of ways in which it's preventable as well. And regular checks are one of the main ways. There are lots of ways, lots of material online that can help you, whether it's checking your testicles, checking your breasts, whatever it is. Get checked.
Yep.
Marty, that's it for period 3, but I do notice there was something, but you've taken it out.
I have indeed. I think we can use it for another time. I just think we kind of cut towards the end of our show for this week. I'm not going to lie. If it's okay with you boys. Yeah, that really just takes us to round it off this week's episode, as we always do. Check out our social media. We're on all social media channels. We're on Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at Door14 Hockey. Check out this podcast, all other previous podcasts on our website, door14hockey.com. As always, listen to our podcast wherever you listen to our show on your favorite podcast provider of choice. And don't forget to like, subscribe, whatever your podcast provider does. Leave a 5-star review, whatever that might be. It helps the algorithm and kind of gets us seen as usual. And don't forget, if you haven't already, jump over to YouTube and you can subscribe and hit the button and get notifications whenever we go live. I think it's the same on Twitch as well. So thank you for anybody who's joined us on Twitch for the first time. I think that is
Marty,
it for...
Do you want to look at the week ahead, or do you want to leave that for your TikTok exclusive?
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. Let's see the controversial comment there from Jarlath. I'm going to put that up just quickly there. Jarlath saying far better than AVFTB. What do you think, Marty? Jarlath Smith, I agree with you. I'm not sure your brother will, but yep. Thank you. Yeah, that is it for this week. All we have to do is sign off, as we always do. I'm Marty.
I'm John.
I'm Aaron.
Have a great week.